Have you ever had a secret that was so big you felt like you might explode? Now, imagine you are a king or a queen. You have the biggest secrets in the whole world. Everyone is looking at you. They are taking pictures and writing stories. Suddenly, things start to go wrong. A little boy disappears from the balcony. A mother hides her face at the airport. A sister tells a scary story on TV. The big stone walls of the palace are supposed to keep secrets in, but the walls are starting to crack. Today, we are going to look behind those walls. We are going to find out what happened to the most famous family on Earth. This is a story about lies, about hiding, and about what happens when the truth finally comes out. In the shivering early days of 2026, while most of the world was still recovering from its New Year celebrations, a single digital spark ignited an inferno that threatened to consume the British monarchy's most controversial branch. Picture a rain-slick pavement in Los Angeles just outside a hotel so exclusive it does not even carry a name on its heavy brass doors. A woman, her face partially obscured by a cascading designer scarf, slips through a side entrance with practiced urgency. Exactly 10 minutes later, a powerful familiar figure follows her path. This was not a scene from a scripted Hollywood thriller. It was the beginning of a real-life collapse for the dream of Montecito. As those grainy paparazzi images began to flood the internet, a chilling question echoed from London to California. Why was the Duchess meeting this man alone while her husband was nowhere to be found? This is going to be a bumpy ride, so hold on tight. At the very start of the year 2026, it was very cold. People were still happy from their New Year parties. But then, something small started a giant mess for the royal family. It was like a tiny spark that grew into a huge fire. This fire was about to hurt the part of the family that people talk about the most. Imagine a wet street in Los Angeles. There is a very fancy hotel there. It is so secret that it does not even have a name on the big doors. A woman walked in through a side door very quickly. She was trying to hide her face with a big, expensive scarf. Exactly 10 minutes later, a famous man followed her. This was not a movie. This was the start of a real-life nightmare for Meghan and Harry. Soon, blurry pictures were all over the internet. People in London and California were all asking the same thing. Why was Meghan meeting this man all by herself? Where was her husband, Prince Harry? The man was Marcus Anderson. He is the person who runs a group of very fancy clubs called Soho House. But the most shocking part was not just the meeting. It was when it happened. They met right after a reporter said he was going to tell a dark secret. This secret was from before the wedding, and it lasted a long time. But where was Prince Harry? He always said he would protect his wife from the mean news people. Now, he was totally quiet. He did not say anything to defend her. There were no angry letters from lawyers. He was just gone. People started to whisper. They said that while Meghan was at that hotel, Harry was on a secret plane to Toronto. He was looking for a truth he did not want to find. Was he trying to save his family? Or was he looking for a reason to leave? Stay with us as we find out more about this huge mess. The first days of 2026 did not feel like a fresh start. Instead, there was a cold wind that shook the big house in Montecito. Most people were still sleepy after New Year's Eve. But then, a very sharp message appeared on the internet. It shook everyone who saw it. The message came from Piers Morgan. He is a writer who is always trying to find the truth about Meghan Markle. This time he was not shouting. He was very quiet and cold. He posted a few short lines on the website that used to be called Twitter. He said he had proof of a dark secret between Meghan and Marcus Anderson. Marcus is the boss of the Soho House clubs. The message was very scary because of how it was written. He did not just say she did something bad a long time ago. He said this secret continued even after she was a princess. He ended the post by telling everyone to wait. He said the truth was about to come out. In less than 30 minutes, more than 1 million people saw the post. Everyone was interested in this story. People in London and Los Angeles started to talk. They wanted to know why he was saying this now. They wondered what could be so dark. Piers Morgan is very good at this. He knows that information is like a weapon. He also knows that being quiet is like the power that makes a bomb go off. He did not show any pictures or papers at first. He let people guess. He knew that if he kept it vague, people would imagine things that were even worse than the truth. He watched as everyone started to look up the name Marcus Anderson. To people who don't know, Marcus Anderson might seem like someone in the background. But to people who know Meghan, he is very important. He is a man from Canada. He runs Soho House. This is a place where the most powerful and famous people go to be private. He has the keys to their world. Suddenly, old pictures from 2014 and 2016 appeared again. In one photo, Meghan is smiling next to Marcus at a party. In another one, he has his hand on her shoulder. Back then, people thought they were just close friends. Marcus helped Meghan meet famous people in London. But now, those smiles looked scary. Every touch looked like a piece of a puzzle that Harry was not supposed to see. Everyone wanted to know the answer to one question. If they were just work friends, why would a reporter call it a dark secret? Why talk about her wedding ring unless she broke her promises? As time went on, the news felt like it was everywhere. People were split into two groups. One group said this was a mean plan to hurt a woman of color who fought the system. They said Piers Morgan was just being mean because he did not like her. They said he was just chasing a ghost. But the other group was quiet and careful. They noticed that Meghan's lawyers were not trying to stop the stories. Usually, they are very fast to sue people. They also noticed that the big magazines were not writing nice things about her yet. And the most important thing was the silence at the Montecito house. Piers Morgan waited 2 days before he said anything else. He said he was not in a hurry because the truth does not run away. He was letting the pressure grow. He wanted people to doubt the marriage. He knew how to use silence to make a rumor feel like a big bomb. The storm was already there. It was hurting the way people saw the perfect love story. Just when things were getting crazy, another person from Meghan's past spoke up. This person was ready to turn a rumor into a giant family tragedy. As the news in London got hotter, a second blow hit the family. This one did not come from a newsroom. It came from a family member in Florida who was very angry. Samantha Markle is Meghan's half-sister. They have not been friends for a long time. She has always been a problem for the Duchess. Now, she stepped into the light of the scandal. She did not just say small things. She told very specific stories that could ruin Meghan's reputation. Samantha chose a very important moment to speak. Right after Marcus Anderson was mentioned, she wrote a long post on social media. She said she would not be quiet anymore. She said she saw things happen with her own eyes. Her biggest claim was so shocking that everyone on the internet stopped talking for a moment. Samantha said that when Meghan was 19 years old, she got pregnant. This was way before she was a famous actress. She said the young woman went into hiding for 6 months. This was not a vacation. Samantha said it was a plan to stay away from everyone. The end of the story was the birth of a baby boy. But Samantha said the baby was not kept. She said the baby was given away for adoption to an older couple. She said this was a huge secret that had been kept for over 20 years. This story was like throwing gas on a fire. For a long time, people saw Meghan as a great mom who protected her 2 kids in California. If this story was true, it would be a huge shock. It would hurt who she is today. Samantha did not stop there. She said this secret was connected to Marcus Anderson. She said Marcus was not just a new friend. She said he was a link to this hidden part of her life. She called him the keeper of the most dangerous secret in the family. Samantha knew that people might not believe a social media post. So she did a TV interview. She looked very serious. She said she did not want to hurt her sister. But she said the lies were too heavy to carry. She talked about late-night phone calls and secret meetings. She said they didn't make sense then, but they make sense now. Then she said something that made the royal family very worried. She talked about Princess Anne. Princess Anne is the king's sister. She is very hard-working and stays out of trouble. But Samantha said she was part of the story. She said that when Harry and Meghan first got married, Princess Anne found an old medical paper. This paper was found when they were checking on new family members. The paper supposedly said Meghan had a baby when she was 19. Samantha said she had a secret meeting with Princess Anne. She said Anne wanted to ask the hard questions that the men were too scared to ask. She said the princess was shocked, but the palace kept it a secret to protect the family. This news changed everything. It was not just about a possible affair in 2026 anymore. It was about a big lie from the 1990s. People started to wonder if the royal family used this secret to control Meghan. Or maybe they wondered if Meghan left the family in 2020 because she was afraid the secret would come out. The internet became like a crime scene. People started looking for old news from Toronto. They wanted to find anything about a baby being adopted. They looked for connections between the older couple and Marcus Anderson. Everyone was searching for his name. Samantha's interview turned the rumor into a family tragedy. It was about broken trust. It was about a sister who felt ignored. People who liked Meghan were very angry. They said Samantha was a liar who wanted to be famous. They said she was trying to destroy her own sister. They said there was no real proof of a baby. But some people were worried. The stories were very specific. It is a big risk to lie about a medical report and Princess Anne. People thought no one would do that unless they had proof. The air felt very heavy. The world was looking at a broken picture of a woman who used to be a modern royal. Now she was accused of keeping a giant secret for 20 years. And in the middle of it was Princess Anne. Her silence made people think she was either hiding the truth or trying to cover it up. The storm was getting bigger. The next person to speak would change everything forever. The royal family was in a very bad spot. The silence from the palace started to feel like the family was falling apart. People were not just asking if the stories were true. They wanted to know why the family was letting their name be ruined. The focus of the news changed. It was not just about Meghan anymore. It was about Princess Anne. For 3 days, reporters stood outside her house. They wanted a sign or a word from her. They knew Anne was tough. They also knew the family rule is to never explain things. But this was too much. The idea that she helped hide a secret hurt her reputation. People said she was very, very angry. On the 4th day, there was a big announcement. Princess Anne was going to have a press conference. This was very rare. It meant the family was done being quiet. It was a war against the rumors. The room was full of reporters from all over the world. When the doors opened, everyone was silent. Princess Anne walked out. She wore a dark blue suit that looked like armor. She did not smile. She looked at the room with very sharp eyes. Her voice was cold. She said she has worked for her country and the crown her whole life. She said she does not hide secrets. She said her name was being used for a media game. She said she never saw a medical report and never met Samantha Markle. But then she did something unexpected. She didn't just leave. She brought out a man named Jonathan Hale. He was a movie director. He looked very nervous. He told a story from 2014 and 2015. He said Marcus Anderson contacted him back then. Marcus was acting like a boss for Meghan. Jonathan said Marcus promised him millions of dollars for a movie, but only if Meghan was the star. It was a plan to make her successful. Jonathan said she was good but not right for the role. When he tried to give her a smaller part, Marcus got very angry. He threatened to take away the money. Jonathan also talked about how Meghan and Marcus acted together. He said they were very close. He saw them in quiet corners of the club. They whispered and laughed. He said they had a secret language. He said Marcus held her in a way that was too familiar for just friends. He said it was a partnership that broke the rules. The reporter started shouting questions. But Princess Anne stopped them. She said the royal family does not hide crimes. But she said they would not let people make up stories. She walked out without answering questions. This changed everything. It did not prove there was a baby, but it showed that the bond between Meghan and Marcus was very deep. It showed that people's bad thoughts might be right. The year 2026 started with a big mess. The hotel in Los Angeles and the secret meeting were just the beginning. The world was watching as a dream fell apart. People were asking why Meghan was alone with Marcus. Where was Harry? Harry was quiet and didn't help her. Some people said he was in Toronto looking for the truth. He wanted to know if his family was a lie. The story was deeper than a fairy tale. The first days of 2026 brought a cold wind to the Montecito house. Piers Morgan's message shook everyone. He claimed to have proof of a secret between Meghan and Marcus. He said it lasted even after the wedding. More than 1 million people saw his post very fast. Everyone was interested. They wanted to know what the dark secret was. Piers was playing a game with silence. He let everyone imagine the worst. People started to look up Marcus Anderson. He was the gatekeeper of the Soho house clubs. He helped Meghan become famous. Old pictures showed them together. Now, those pictures looked suspicious. People wondered if their bond was more than just work. The media was full of tension. Some said it was a plan to hurt Meghan. Others saw that her lawyers were being quiet. This made them think the stories were true. Piers Morgan was making the rumor into a big bomb. The fairy tale was ending. Then Samantha Markle came out with her stories from Florida. Samantha said she would not be quiet. She told a story about Meghan having a baby at 19. She said Meghan hid for 6 months to have the child. She said the baby was given away for adoption. This was a giant accusation. It hit the heart of who Meghan is. Samantha said Marcus Anderson knew about the baby. She did a TV interview to tell her story. She looked very serious. She said the lies were too much. She brought Princess Anne into the story. She said Anne found a medical report about the baby. She said they had a secret meeting. This made it a huge problem for the royal family. It wasn't just about an affair anymore. It was about a 30-year-old secret. People started looking for proof in Toronto. Samantha made the scandal feel very real. Supporters of Meghan said Samantha was a liar. But the details were very specific. People wondered if anyone would lie about Princess Anne. The world was watching a woman's reputation fall apart. Princess Anne was in the middle of it. The storm was at its peak. Something happened to Prince Louis that the palace did not want to talk about. One day he was there, jumping on the balcony and making funny faces. Then he was gone. The palace gates closed and the little prince disappeared. There was no warning. There was just silence. But now the palace has finally talked. They confirmed he is not doing public things anymore. But the words they used were a bit scary. Was he sick? Was there a fight in the family? People were worried. Even the palace workers looked upset. Catherine, his mom, looked very sad. So what really happened to Prince Louis? He left a big empty space. It happened very quietly. There was no big news story at first. One moment he was the funniest person on the balcony. The next moment he was gone. It was a very fast change. He missed many events. There were no new school pictures. There were no photos to make people feel okay. The youngest son of William and Catherine was just gone. This time, it was very quiet. At big events, you could see the difference. William looked serious. George looked like he was growing up fast. Charlotte looked polite, but the spot where Louis usually stood was empty. People who watch the royals know how to look for clues. A small look or a hand gesture can mean a lot. Louis being gone for a long time was a big deal. It was not just one missed party. It was a pattern. The palace did not say anything for a long time. That made the silence feel very loud. People who usually talk about fashion started to ask serious questions. They wanted to know why the most fun member of the family was hidden. They wanted a reason. In the royal family, you have to be seen. Every picture has a reason. When a child disappears, everyone notices. The empty space seemed to get bigger and bigger. The palace would not say anything. The world watched the family do their jobs. But everyone was thinking about Louis. Then, after a long time, the silence broke. What were they hiding? When the palace finally spoke, they were very careful. They used a very calm voice. They put out an official paper. It was short and very controlled. They said the young prince would take some protected time away from the public. They said it was the best thing for him. That was all. They did not say why. They did not say when he would come back. They did not talk about the rumors. They just said he was done with public duties. To some, the words sounded nice. Protected time sounds like they are being good parents. But to people who know the palace, the words felt weird. They were too careful. They didn't give any details. This made people ask even more questions. The news was everywhere. Some people were happy to hear anything. Others thought it sounded like a legal paper. The absence was now official. The most important thing was what they did not say. They did not say it was for a short time. They did not say he was just sick. They made it sound like a big choice. Inside the palace, words are like a plan. They choose them to make the family look stable. To say he was stepping back without an end date was a big signal. It felt like it might be forever. It sounded like they were trying to fix a big problem. They weren't just saying he was gone. They were putting a wall around him. The choice felt very important and maybe a bit scary. As people read the words, they knew one thing. Louis did not just leave by accident. The family chose to hide him. And we know that when they are this careful, there is a deeper story. Now we have to wonder what the cameras almost saw. Before the official news, there was a moment that showed something was wrong. It was on the balcony on a sunny day. The crowds were cheering and cameras were flashing. The family stood together. William looked straight ahead. Catherine was calm. George and Charlotte were smiling. And there was Louis. At first, he looked normal. But when people watched the video slowly, they saw a different story. Louis is usually very active. But this time, he was very still. He held his hands very tight. He looked stiff. The spark in his eyes was gone. People noticed he wouldn't look at the crowd. When people cheered, he looked tense. He didn't lean forward to see the planes. He moved backward. He looked very uncomfortable. A person who knows how kids act said he looked stressed. They said he didn't look shy. He looked like he was having a hard time. There was a small moment between Catherine and Louis. She turned her head to look at him. It was not a proud look. It was a worried look. Her smile was still there, but her eyes were searching. She was checking to see if he was okay. William was also acting different. He looked at the crowd and then gave a small nod to a helper in the back. The helper stepped back. At the time, no one noticed. But later, it felt like a plan. Photographers said they were told not to take close-up pictures of Louis. They were told to avoid taking pictures of just him. This was very strange. It felt like a calculated move. The balcony scene was not a celebration. It was a moment where they decided he needed to leave. The groundwork for him going away was already there. Things were about to get much more serious behind palace doors. After the balcony moment, the worry continued away from the cameras. Behind the big gates, Catherine was very concerned. She began to write letters to King Charles and his helpers. These letters were not about work. They were about her son. She was being a mom. She asked for time and space for Louis. She said he was changing. The boy who was always happy was now sad and quiet. She said he would cry for no reason. He would talk to himself in a nervous way. He didn't want to see the palace staff. The sound of cameras made him jump. Even his schoolwork was getting hard. To Catherine, these were warning signs. She thought the pressure of being famous was too much for a young child. But the palace people didn't want to change things. They said hiding him would start rumors. They said the family needs to look strong. The message to Catherine was to keep going and look happy. But Catherine didn't care about the news. She cared about her son. The fight got worse. Catherine is a future queen, so she knows her job. But she is a mom first. People say she started to get tough in meetings. She wasn't just talking about a schedule, she was fighting for her boy. Things reached a big moment when Louis was supposed to go to a ceremony. He refused to leave his room. He wouldn't listen to anyone. The moment Catherine was afraid of it happened. The palace still wanted him to go. So, Catherine made a big choice. She did not go to the event either. This was a huge shock. It was a signal that she would break the rules to save her child. The palace people were very upset. Protocol was broken. But Catherine did not back down. She was demanding a change, and someone was starting to listen. William couldn't stay quiet anymore. He saw how worried Catherine was. He saw how much Louis was struggling. He knew the palace could be very tough. What started as a mom asking for help turned into a big fight. A meeting happened at Clarence's house. King Charles was there. Queen Camilla was there too. William brought a folder of papers. He looked very cold and serious. Inside the folder were Catherine's letters and notes about Louis. There was also a warning from a doctor. The doctor said that being in the public eye would make Louis worse. William spoke calmly at first. He talked about how Louis had changed. He asked if the royal schedule was too much for a small boy. He said this was not about being lazy. It was about health. King Charles said the family has always done their duty even when it was hard. He said they needed to look stable for the people. Then things got heated. Queen Camilla supposedly said Louis was just going through a hard phase. This made William very angry. He stood up and his voice got loud. He said his son was not a tool to be used for popularity. He said he was a real person with needs. The room got very quiet. It reminded people of the old fights from when Princess Diana was alive. William was not done. He asked if the helpers cared more about the news than about people. He showed the doctor's note again. He was choosing his son over the crown. King Charles tried to calm things down. He said everyone wants the best for Louis. But the line was already crossed. William's job as a prince had collided with his job as a dad. The meeting changed everything. You couldn't just ignore what William had said. When the palace finally stepped back, things didn't feel normal. The meeting didn't have shouting at the end, but it was very powerful. William had set a boundary. Catherine had made her choice. Now the palace had to adapt. They spent days talking about how to fix things without looking weak. They decided to take Louis out of the public eye. His name was taken off the planning papers. They didn't tell the news people right away. They were very quiet. They told the reporters to use words like privacy and protection. They told photographers to be nice. The change would look natural. When the statement came out, it was very careful. Protected time away from public life was the phrase they used. It made it look like a plan, not a crisis. It kept the story under control. This was a big deal. For the first time, the palace listened to a mom and dad instead of tradition. William's fight had worked. He made it clear that his kids' health comes first. Some palace people thought this was good and modern. Others were worried about the future. They wondered if other royals would do the same thing. The family's strength is usually about sticking it out. Changing that was a big step. Catherine was not happy or celebrating. She was just relieved. She didn't want to win a fight. She just wanted to save her son. The public only saw the nice photos of the family. They looked steady. But the empty space next to them meant something new. It was the result of a private fight. Tradition had not fallen, but it had to bend. A future king and queen had changed the rules. Louis was now safe and hidden. The world accepted the story. But the balance between being a royal and being a human was different now. King Charles spoke up. He said that even though she meant well, it was not okay. He said they couldn't have that kind of behavior in the family. The advisors had a long meeting. They decided that Camilla would have to stop her official work for 2 years. She wouldn't be part of big decisions. Robert Lang was fired. They didn't tell the public everything, but people noticed she was gone. The next day, the palace put out a message saying Kate was okay. They said her health was stable. The public felt sorry for Kate. William changed the team and made everything more secure. He told Kate that it was over and she didn't have to worry. Kate was very happy. They finally had some peace. William had protected his family. The future of the crown was safe in his hands. He had shown that he was a strong leader. What do you think about Camilla? Did she do it for power or to help the family? Let us know in the comments. We hope you enjoyed the story. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.